Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. I publish new videos every week and I will be posting lots of English language advice videos on this channel in the coming months. So make sure you hit that subscribe button now. So today's video is about how long it took me to learn English, and you're probably here because you're trying to find out how long it takes to learn English to become fluent in English. So many people actually ask me this question and there isn't really a straightforward answer. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you my story of how I learned English and how long it took me to learn English to get from beginner to advanced, and also I'm going to share with you some of the lessons that I took from the process that hopefully will help you progress with your English more quickly. So when I started learning English seriously, I was probably about 11 years old, and I could probably call myself fluent when I was about 19, when I went to university. So for those of you who are new to this channel, who haven't seen my previous videos, I went to university in the UK, in Sheffield. When I went to university at 19, I considered myself fluent, but I will explain more about that and actually what my level of fluency was later on in the video, so make sure you stick around. So when I was 11, I started going to English classes in my hometown in Poland, which is where I grew up. But I didn't probably do a lot of kind of serious learning until I was about 15, which is when I started preparing for some certificate exams. So I didn't take the TOEFL exam, but I took the Cambridge First Certificate, Advanced and Proficiency exams. So when I was about 15 years old, that's when I started learning sort of more consistently and more consciously. So I would say it probably took me 4 years of learning to get to advanced. Although I wasn't really a beginner at the age of 15 at all. I was a beginner at the age of 11. So that's why I said there isn't a straightforward answer to the question of how long it takes to learn English, because what I'm doing is I'm sharing my story and everyone's case is obviously different. So the first thing that you should note about my story is that when I was learning English, I was a teenager. And I know that many of you are teenagers, but then many of you also watching this video are adults. You are perhaps university students, or you're already working, or maybe you're retired and you're learning English. So each of you will have a different set of circumstances. For me, when I was a teenager, obviously I couldn't devote all of my time to learning English because I was going to school, I was learning other subjects, I was doing lots of other things that teenagers do, and there wasn't really too much consistency to my learning. The only consistent thing that I had was going to classes. So from the age of 11 until the age of 18, I went to an English language school twice a week for, I believe, an hour and a half. And that was the only kind of consistent element of my learning. If I was learning English again now, I would definitely become more consistent and kind of conscious about it. So I would definitely have some specific goals, which I didn't have at the time. I would definitely recommend that if you're learning English, that you set yourself some very specific goals and that you schedule in your learning, and that will help you accelerate your progress. So like I said before, between the ages of 15 and 18, I was preparing for those Cambridge assessment exams that test your language fluency, language capability. And basically what I did was I studied a lot of vocabulary and I focused specifically on synonyms, collocations and idioms. So I got myself a synonyms dictionary, a collocations dictionary and an idioms dictionary. And the reason I did that is because I gained an understanding that, language is words, and if I want to become fluent and advanced, if I want to be able to watch a film in English or read a book, I need to build my vocabulary. So I was learning a lot of new words, but I was also focusing on learning in context to be able to speak English and understand English in an idiomatic way. So, I just wanted to make sure that whatever I'm saying sounds natural, and if I'm reading something, I understand, the idioms, the collocations, the different phrases that exist in English. So I focused a lot on that. I had a vocabulary notebook where I would write down all the phrases that I was learning, all the new words and their translations in Polish. That's the approach that I took at the time. And I also did a lot of mock exams. So the exams that I was taking were composed of 5 different parts: speaking, reading, listening, writing, and use of English, so kind of grammar, I suppose. And I was basically doing loads and loads and loads of mock exams. I was taking sort of exams that people had taken previously and testing myself. And that was a good way to learn, but it was all about studying specifically for the exams. So I think if I was learning English again, and that's another tip I want to share with you, I would definitely focus on vocabulary, collocations, and learning words in context straight away. So rather than just learning individual words, if I were you, I would learn collocations, I would learn idioms, and I would learn every single new word in context. So looking up sentences with that word, trying to build my own sentences with that word to make sure that you can actually use it idiomatically, naturally when you need it. So like I said at the start of this video, I went to university in the UK when I was about 19, and basically when I got to England, I realized that I didn't understand kind of normal people very well. So I struggled with conversations quite a lot, even though I had taken the highest proficiency exam back home, and I got an A in that, so I did really well. I was able to talk about very kind of big, complex topics like politics and climate change and literature, but I wasn't able to have and understand basic conversations because I hadn't really exposed myself to sort of everyday English enough when I was still learning English back home. So when I got to England to go to university, that's when the kind of proper exposure started, and that's when it hit me that I hadn't really exposed myself enough. It took me a while to get used to the way people were talking, and I did become fluent very quickly. I did become familiar with the way English sounded in everyday conversations very quickly. But I think if I was doing this again, I would have definitely exposed myself to English, to everyday English, much earlier in the process. So even when I was a beginner, obviously I was a young child, so maybe that would have been more difficult. But if you're learning as an adult or as a teenager or a young person, I definitely recommend that you expose yourself to everyday English as quickly as possible. So I'm basically saying, if you're using textbooks or kind of listening material that's made specifically for English learners, carry on doing that. But on top of that, make sure that you're also watching natural English in action. So watch YouTube videos, read blogs, watch comedy shows, listen to and read English that is natural, that's not too complex, that's kind of like everyday language, because that will give you the exposure and it will help you get to that advanced level and fluency much more quickly. So this is my story. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, there isn't a straightforward answer to the question of how long it takes to learn English from beginner to advanced, but I gave you an idea of how much time it took me in my particular situation, and also some of the things that I didn't do that I would do today to make sure that I am progressing and I am getting closer to the advanced level more quickly. So I hope this helped you, and make sure you subscribe to my channel. Just hit that subscribe button underneath the video, because I will be posting more videos like this one with lots of different tips for learning English in the future. So stay tuned and I'll see you next time. Bye!